Try not to screw
Good
around.
evening, everybody, and welcome back to Journaling Through Life Home Edition. Tonight's special guest is Paula. She is a legendary and a groundbreaking documentary maker, filmmaker, director, and I just discovered editor as well. Paula, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. This is truly my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Now, I live in Canada and you live in the States, and we know that we're in this global traumatic crises event. For us, we're still at home indefinitely. We have no plans to go back to normal. What about yourself? What's the word on the street?
Okay, so I live in Bozeman, Montana, which is a relatively small, relatively rural community. We have a little under 50,000, but we're also a university town and we have a very active airport. So we're not your classic remote. But we went on lockdown, it's been going on, I want to say since mid-March. So our governor was all over it. We've had low numbers, but I've been very serious about it. I caretake an elderly relative. And so when I go out, I do all the food shopping and all that kind of stuff. And I've got my mask and my gloves. And things are opening up, but for me, I'm kind of, waiting. Still in the wait and see mode, and I'm not sure what normal. I mean, it will be a new normal. I can guarantee you that. But everybody, including me, is sort of trying to figure out what things will be like. And I think, it's day by day, right?
Absolutely. It's day by day. And now when you were saying you're putting on the mask, you're doing, all these extreme measures to keep yourself healthy.
Mm-hmm.
For the people who are watching, Paula
Mm-hmm.
is also a 2-time cancer survivor. So
Right.
you have sort of
Okay.
done that, right? Like,
I'm an overachiever is what I like to say.
that's awesome.
Had to do it twice. Mm-hmm.
There you go. So on Saturday night, I had the pleasure of watching Life Interrupted. This is the movie that Paula made. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. I had, I think, 4 boxes of Kleenex with me. It was just raw, emotional, and as a woman, I can just so, not relate in the sense that I have had breast cancer. The reason I started with the breast cancer journal is because my husband's mom passed away when she was only 35. He was 13.
Wow.
So that is our sort of, how life changes after such a big life-altering event.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the movie is absolutely fantastic. And what I loved about it is the reassurance part. And I think that is something that people are finding now too. It's like, you're not in this alone. If I feel like, I'm less feminine because of a mastectomy that I might have to have, or the hair loss that was, we can all relate to that. But I think the movie really, really showcases us that we are in this together. Could you speak to that a bit about, your vision for the movie? Was that a big part of it?
Mm-hmm. It was. I know when I was first diagnosed, I had been a filmmaker before that. So for many years, and I'd been dealing with health issue documentaries, including HIV/AIDS, teenagers, teen pregnancy. I was mentioning some of that to you before. And so when I had my first episode of cancer, my friends were weighing in saying, you've got to make a movie about this. And I was like, no, I want to just get through this. And, I know to make a film, a documentary film, it could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years of your time. And I didn't want to be spending that kind of energy on something that I just wanted to hurry up and fix. And so the first time, that's what I did do. I did everything I needed to do. Then one of the things is that, I did, I'm very straightforward. So it's like, okay, you've got cancer. And I freaked out for a little bit, but then it was like, all right, I got to take care of this. So, what are my steps? And I think I mentioned to you, I'm an avid journalist or journaler. And so, I wrote down a lot of my thoughts and feelings, and I just wanted to collect data uh, to try and make some, decisions. And as I was going through all of this, I was very focused and kind of just, pinholed on what I needed to do. After the first episode, I realized that, I kept thinking I was the only person, which is so silly because we know, at least in the United States, it's 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed in their lifetime. And what's interesting, you said your mother-in-law had it at 35. I think we are getting more and more younger women into the picture. And one of the things that's so important about younger women is that they're not shown in the media. And I was young, but not super young. I was in my 40s. But I know all these young women I talked to, had some of the same feelings, like they were the only ones. And how come you just see these, geriatric types, imagery and everything. And so the combination of realizing that there were people that weren't getting to tell their stories, weren't getting to be seen in the media, and also, my own feeling intellectually, I knew there were so many of us, but I felt so alone. So I decided that, I would at least look into making a film. And then in the process of that, I was diagnosed again. And so the film then, I decided to take it on. It was helpful in some ways because during some really intense parts, like getting a bilateral mastectomy, I could focus on the film. And so how was I going to sneak a camera into the hospital and to make sure that, my doctors and my nurses and all the healthcare providers signed releases so that, it could be legit. And, I know just from being a filmmaker that shooting in schools and hospitals are the hardest places because it's really, really difficult to get permission. And so I kind of, decided I was just going to, what I call run and gun it, that I would just say, hey, this is about me. I'm not trying to catch anybody off guard. I will make sure that everybody that's on screen, is signed a release. And so that's sort of the way I took it, and haven't had any problems.
And sometimes it's just easier to ask forgiveness than permission too, right?
That's true. That's true. Especially in a situation like that, because, it's a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, it's a one-shot deal. I did find though, watching the film, especially, and we're not going to do spoilers because people would need to watch the film as well, but when you showed the actual procedures, right? Even as a person who's never had cancer before, it's so honest and authentic that you can see yourself in that position, right? And I think that that empathy that's created, that whole, like if I see somebody on the street, that kindness that you have to have, because you really do not know what other people are going through. And if you know that they or that they've been diagnosed, right? Even the fertility, the infertility, the cultural things, there are just such a plethora of topics. You can probably make, like a film of each of those topics by themselves too.
Absolutely. And I think that was, I ended up focusing the film. I didn't want it, actually, I never wanted to be in the film, but because I had access to my very intimate moments, and I would never ask somebody else to do something I wouldn't do, just ethically that didn't seem right. And even though, I didn't think I was the most interesting subject or anything, I just kind of went with it. But I also, the film features other women and who have different experiences, and I thought that was important too, because it's not a one size fits all. And yet most of us go through some of the same guideposts, being diagnosed, trying to figure out all this really complicated information in a very short window of time, trying to learn this whole new language, trying to coordinate doctor's appointments, and trying to find the best doctor, the best fit for you. And I think, we live in this world, well, maybe the pandemic has changed it, I don't know, but, I always was brought up thinking that, I believe in medicine and I believe in doctors, and that, they're educated and they know what to do. And you find out later that cancer is not, it's not black and white. It's not binary. It's not you do this or you do that. It's just weighing out all sorts of data, expectancy percentages, and then also I think quality of life. And I think what's so important to me is each person should, arm themselves with the information, but then they get to make the choice that's best for them. And hopefully you find a doctor that's going to support you in that, journey.
Right. And I love that about the film. When you were saying the doctors, the the phrase educated guess came to mind, right? I'm like, they're really making educated guesses as to, is this going to work? And you don't even know. And I mean, like you said, to just take control over the things that you can take control over. And that's something we've discussed on this series as well. The control that we thought we had, we're really coming to a realization we never had it in the first place. But
that is so true.
Right.
And I think, I don't know if I looked at some of your interviews, but I didn't catalog them or anything. But I think that, cancer survivors know that the ground can move underneath you, at any time. And so for those of us who have done the cancer thing and then COVID comes in, a lot of us feel like, hey, I've been there before. This is not breaking news for us because we had to learn it in our cancer journey.
Absolutely. And that is, when I reached out to you, I was so thankful that you agreed to do this interview, because I think there are so many life skills that you had to acquire. You just had to become resilient, resourceful, creative. And I think that mental health component is so important, because your body is going through like the stuff that you put on there. I'm like, how does a body even survive that? Like, to be honest, like just that mental strength that you need. And what were some of the things, if you don't mind, that helped you mentally? You mentioned journaling and meditation and the support from your dad too.
Yeah. So I've always been physically a pretty strong person. And so I got myself out. I walked to the doctors a lot or rode my bike. And I was fortunate. I mean, I know people, and later when I did even chemo, I was still hiking every day. And that's just, I want to say luck of the draw, I know people that couldn't get off the couch, and I know that that's totally true too. We're all different. But so I would say exercise was huge. And in fact, when I was, I've always been a gym person, but I also hike and bike and all that kind of stuff. And just, I get a lot of support and grounding from nature. And so I live in an area where nature is very available, and I take advantage of that. And I think that was a huge, huge help for me. And there's stuff that happened to me that's not in the movie. There just wasn't enough time. But I had some infections that we covered. But I ended up getting an infected port, which is what they put in to get chemo, and it's right by your heart. So not great. And I think I had 6 rounds of chemo, but after the first one, they never were able to use the port, so they mainlined the chemo to me, and they didn't take the port out. And so I was, existing with an infected port. I've got a really low my immune system's completely shot because of the chemo, and they're continuing to to give me chemo, but they never bothered to take the port out. So there's just a nurse friend of mine, kind of pushed me into saying, hey, if they're not using it and it's infected, you might want to have them take it out. And, you think you're getting the best care. And, I would never name names or anything like that, but I just know that doctors are busy. They're not perfect. Most of them have huge patient loads. And so it's so important that you are your own advocate and, hopefully be able to bring in a parent, a friend, somebody that can support you in that. But I can't say that enough because, and if you do your homework, usually they do respect you for it. I guess I also found that if a doctor is telling you, don't worry about it, we got it all figured out. For me, that's maybe a red light that might not be a good fit for me.
Absolutely. So it's more of like a cohesive unit in helping versus and I don't, or
Right. I mean, I always say, let's put all our brains together.
Right. We are stronger together.
We're stronger together. And also, I know me. I've lived with me. And so, and I think sometimes people, here's another thing that didn't come out in the film, but I think this is really important. When you're a cancer patient, it's life and death. And that doctor in front of you has your life in his or her hands. And so we all want, and maybe this is also female too, but I think there's a couple things going on with this. We want our doctors to like us, so that we get their special attention focus. You don't want to be a bitch with your doctors or the schedulers, to be honest, because, you want their best, their best energy. And, it's just human nature. If they're seeing 5, 10, 20 people a day, they get tired, and so you want to be someone that they look forward to seeing. I mean, all those things. And I know anybody that's been through what I know, or been through what I've been through, I know would agree. So I guess my point is that you're trying to figure out the right doctor for you, but you also are on your best. Once you choose one, you're kind of on, your best behavior because you want them to like you.
Right. You got to play the game a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Make
yeah,
sure,
a lot.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And now that you mentioned that, like it's a life and death thing, and I think that is what a lot of people are struggling with now too. And in your movie, I think it was towards the end, you said that, it's been 8 years. Cancer took 8 years of my life, right? And then if we put it in perspective, we've only been in isolation for 2 months. Calm down. But it does bring back the point of how time can just be such a valuable kind of thing that we should really prioritize. Like, how do we prioritize our time, especially if we're faced with our own mortality?
Right. And I think, that whole fight or flight mode that as human beings were programmed from a long, long time ago, I would imagine that's going to kick in for 99.9% of the people once you're diagnosed. And in some ways, I think my energy was kind of fueled by that. But I think what's really important is to, even though you're told you've got cancer, you've got to make these decisions, it's growing. I think you still owe it to yourself to take some breaths, get some perspective. You don't need to make a decision immediately, even though you feel that way. And so I think it's, so journaling, for instance, getting your pros and cons written out, meditating, just, walking, whatever can kind of just relax you and put you in a more flow mode so that, you can start to make decisions, I guess, not from that fear of, what did I call it? Flight or,
fight or flight.
Yeah, fight or flight, right. But from, kind of a more supported and more grounded place.
Right, right. And I think we can add to that list to honestly watch the movie as well. I mean, that just puts it in such a good perspective that it brings a bit of the known into the unknown where you are at,
Thank you.
right?
That's a great, I really appreciate you saying that, because I feel like everything was felt so unknown and so unique. And yes, I'm a unique person, but no, many, 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 many people before me and after me are going to go through many of these same things. And so that's exactly why I wanted to make the film, so that other people that were going through this could see that it's not a pretty pink disease, could see there are ups and downs, could see that, you know, you need to make decisions, and not to scare people, but to empower them, you know, that you get to make choices that are
Right. And
best
I
for
sorry, and I think with your point of the fight or flight, the fear, where does the fear come from? And usually the fear is the unknown and is those
you.
uncertainties. And I loved as well in the film where you used different cultures and,
Mhm.
you know what is, it's an equal opportunity disease.
Right, right.
Like that one really stuck with me, right?
It
It's
is.
definitely, it's enlightening. It's saying, you know, this could happen to anybody. You mentioned 1 in 8 in the States, right? And I loved how empowering people's stories are, right?
Mhm.
And I just love that you brought it to the screen, and in a really, not in a very flashy way, in a very real way. These are real women, you know, these are their real stories and your real story. I think that took a lot of guts and a lot of courage to be so transparent and to just show it for what it is. So thank you for that. That was really, really an incredible movie, an incredible piece.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, as a filmmaker, I'm aware of media, and, you know, I mean, Canada has some wonderful breast cancer support groups for young women and all sorts of people. But, you know, you turn on the TV or the movies, and, you know, it's like the story of the week or the Hallmark Channel or something, where you don't see the details of what it's like. And so, you know, I wanted to give people, yeah, this is a real life perspective. And again, so that they, I think you said it beautifully, you know, to give more known.
Right, right. And I think once we understand just on a global perspective that our stories matter, right? And because we matter. And I think that is a definite thing that came out from this movie as well. And there was such good moments too. Like, you know, it's not all just it's really the roller coaster ride. I think I felt like, you know, scripted wise, it was very much, you know, you go into the valleys and you come out on the mountains. You know,
So
it
I'm
was.
glad you saw that. Yeah, I mean, and there was no, I mean, yeah, the script was just trying to figure out how to put all these pieces together. But it truly is a roller coaster. And one of the things that I found after, as I was working on the film, I reached out to a lot of people through social media. And I really found, particularly the younger women, were more you know, more about, hey, here's my scars, here are my tattoos, you know, I'm going to go flat, I'm not going to reconstruct, or, you know, this sucks, and just people being honest. And that was very that just made me feel supported in a way, because my mother had breast, so I'm also the daughter of a breast cancer survivor, and she died of breast cancer stage 4. But she had it for 12 years, and she got it in, well, she was diagnosed in her mid 60s. And so yes, she lived quite a long time for being that age and having metastatic. But she came from sort of the generation of, you know, let's not talk about it, you know, pull up your bootstraps, you know, stay home, don't show, you know, that's just how it was. And I really find it super helpful that there's so many people that do want to talk about it, because it helps validate me and my story, you know, by hearing other people's stories. You know,
Right.
I've certainly found that to be true.
Oh, I just love that. Yes, and we'll give props where props are due. Great job, social media, for doing that. Right, that is absolutely incredible. Now, these communities, I think that is a very strong thing of social media as well. It really allows us to create these communities because before the age of the internet, even, which I was a part of, our community was our school or our neighborhood. Like we didn't have these global outreaches, and now we can really connect with anybody from all over the world that share these same challenges, experiences, triumphs, everything, and that's so important. Now, how can we actually support the breast cancer community in this time where, we really need to be careful of what we do and, immunity wise?
Right. Um, I mean, I think if we're just talking about the breast cancer community at large, um, I think of one of the biggest side effects of breast cancer is the hit your pocketbook takes. Breast cancer is not cheap. It's not a free boob job, and it's not cheap. And so, people I think forget, well, you're in Canada, so you guys have socialized medicine. And let me just ask you, do you, if somebody wants to get reconstruction, that's all paid for, is that correct? Do you know?
I don't 100% know, but I know that there are programs that would help you with that.
Yeah.
A lot of cancer ones, or you can still buy additional insurance for a very, very small amount of money, and
Okay.
then they would cover it. So it's
Right.
not out of the.
But reconstruction can be, I mean, it is thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands. I mean, and of course this is two different systems, so we won't even get into that. But my point is just, it can really break you. People lose their homes in the United States, they lose everything to fight a cancer diagnosis. So back to your question, what can we do to support people? I think in the big global thing, we need universal health care, and that's, of course, the United States, yay. And we do, thanks to President Bill Clinton, if you have, most insurances will cover reconstruction. So that's like a huge thing in the United States. And then women can go to plastic surgeons who make their big bucks with non-cancer people, but then they can help, because you want somebody who's really good, right?
Right. Who's had
So,
experience.
yeah, experienced and good and all that, artistic. So, um, but I think that they're, looking for organizations that give money directly to survivors, to help pay their bills, to help pay their meds, to help pay their insurance, to help get them to travel, if they live in a rural area, to get to see a doctor, if they need to do reconstruction and they need to get in a plane. So there's organizations like that, and I'm actually in the process of putting resources on my website, but certainly you can Google these kinds of things. And we have cancer support community groups and Gilda's clubs in the United States where they have free like curriculum for people. So, take classes and things like that. But I think the first line of the defense is to help people pay their bills. In terms of were you asking about the film too, or?
Yep, that would be my next question. How we can support the film and how we can spread the news, spread, the word. And I know that we spoke about this previous, that you had such great momentum and now we're all at home, which I still think, people are spending a lot of time online. So if there's a strategy that we can use, make an opportunity of this, if you can just go ahead and tell us in any way, shape, or form how we can help you with the film.
Sure. So I'll back up, and I'm going to hit on just a couple things that help me personally while I'm in lockdown, and also as a cancer survivor, because it doesn't ever go away. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm cured, because you always think that it could come back, which it could. And in my case, it did. I'm drinking tea out of a cup that says NED, which is no evidence of disease. I don't know if they have that in Canada. But This was given to me from a screening I did in New Mexico for a bunch of doctors and nurses who work with cancer patients. But in terms of taking care of yourself, I think it's really important to be in touch with yourself. I can't say enough about journaling. I love journaling. I like to get up in the morning and just download. I've done guided journaling, but I would say I always end up going back to just because stuff builds up in here. So I like to just write and try not to judge, because I'm very judgmental of myself. So it's a great time to just try and pour it all out. Meditation's also great. We have there's a free app called Insight that has all these great meditation things. And occasionally Oprah and Deepak do a free thing. They just did a free thing for COVID. So I'm a big fan of free. And then in terms of my film, I put together a list of things. So hang on a second. Yeah, following us on social media. We have an Instagram account that's pretty active, and Facebook is great. And I would love to, I'm trying to get the film out. So we had all these screenings kind of set up through festivals and different things, and everything just went to a screeching halt in March. So I'm hoping things will pick up again. But, you know, if you are going through cancer, you will know that I know a lot of people are being held back in terms of some of their surgeries, at least in the United States, because people are so COVID focused. And so hopefully if you are going through cancer, things are letting up a little bit so you can actually visit with your doctor, because these are important things. But we would like to, we're looking into different ways where we can do screenings of the film. And I have some ideas for doing some online screenings with different organizations. And I've done this in the past, but where they had the film and they screened it like in some big auditorium somewhere, or even rented a theater. What I'm suggesting now is I'm looking at some platforms, and we would together put together screening, and we could actually do it as a fundraiser for various nonprofits. And then I would provide the film, I'd provide the platform, and then I would be there for Q&A, as well as I would love to have survivors from, you know, whatever community we were addressing. I think that really brings it home. And so we're all getting very Zoom, good at Zoom. And so something like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm looking into that. So I would love it if we have a website. It's lifeinterruptedfilm.com. And feel free to hop over to our website. You can see a free trailer. You can see a bunch of media reviews, testimonials, and then there's a contact page where you could send me a note. And if you're interested in maybe collaborating on a screening or finding out more about that, I'd love to hear from you. I also would like to offer people from journaling. So the program that you run is Journaling Through Life.
Yeah, it's Journaling Through Life.
Okay.
Life.
So I wanted to, you know, I don't really have the film available, but I want to make a special offer for individuals because we're really working on institutions and screenings and, you know, universities and things like that. But for individuals, I'd be willing to offer like a $8 streaming fee where you could have it, you know, for 3 days. And all you got to do is send me a note through our contact, and maybe you can put something like that up there, and just say that you listen to the show, just mention journaling, and I can hook you up with a link to screen. So that's something that you could do that would, I think, help you and help me. And what else? Contact us if you're interested in writing a review. We'd love to get reviews. Oh, I've got another idea. So you guys we have public libraries all over the United States that also, they're all closed right now, but they also, they buy media, so they'll buy DVDs and stuff. And so we've had several very positive library reviews from journals that review for libraries. And so I'm asking people if they want a copy of the film and they don't want to pay for it, you could ask your librarian you could send your librarian some of our positive reviews and suggest that they order a copy for their library. And so that would be another idea. How's
That's
that?
amazing. Oh, and thank you so much. I will put that
Okay.
message out there and always I put everything in the description so people don't have to remember too many things. They can just
Right,
read it.
of
Links
course.
there.
Our brains are way too overloaded right now.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That's amazing. And personally, I absolutely recommend that everybody watches it, whether you are part of that community that have been diagnosed or not. It is just such an insightful film. And I will contact my libraries. I think I know somebody. Yes, I will contact my libraries here too.
And what you can do is, you can ask me to send stuff. Again, just contact me through our contact page on our website is the best way to do it. And I get that right away and I can send you whatever you need. But we've got some beautiful library reviews. We've got press kits. We have testimonials from all sorts of people. We won a ton of awards at festivals. So, we've got it going in a lot of different ways. It just, whoever you are, I'm sure we can get something that'll fit, you and your community and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And like I said, we will promote it on all of our sites as
Yeah.
well.
Thank
And
you.
on a final note, Paula, thank you again for sharing your story with us and for taking the time to chat to us today. Was there a final message that you just, a message of encouragement that you just want to give everybody, breast cancer or not?
Right. Yeah, I think that we're living in very interesting times and, things will change because they always do. But since we do have all this time on our hands, or a lot of us do, it's a great time to really befriend yourself, to try and find out what your core is all about. And, we all are so busy and we get so distracted. And I think we lose sight of who we are. And so I would say, take this opportunity, whether it's through journaling, through meditation, through art, through music. But I think, we make the best of it. And, we do all need each other. We don't get through this life alone, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. And again, I will put all of the information in the description. And Paula, take very good care. And I look forward to chatting to you again.
Great. Thank you so much for letting me have this chat with you. It was really delightful.
You're welcome. All right, chat soon. If you received a breast cancer diagnosis, we have a guided journal specially for you. Find it at journalingthrough.life and start your journey of recovery, healing, happiness, and love. Keep journaling and keep growing.